Hi folks, my name's AJ and I'm the program director here at the OutReach LGBTQ Community Center in Madison, Wisconsin. And I'm here with the first in a short series of educational videos we're doing as we head out of Pride Month and into the rest of the year, reminding folks that it's important to listen to, understand, and learn about our community year round. As I mentioned, my name's AJ, my pronouns are he, him, and they, them. I'm the program director and my contact information is up on the video slide in case you have any questions for me after this presentation. Outreach is a community center, but we also have a lot of other services that we provide to the community, including peer counseling via our AODA advocate, who works with people in recovery or who are questioning whether or not they should be in recovery, our transgender advocate, and our senior advocate that works with people over the age of 50. We host social and support groups, including the Madison Area Transgender Association group, 2 recovery groups, Alcoholics Anonymous and Al-Anon, and for our 50+ community, we have the Gay, Gray, and Beyond spirituality discussion groups. Outreach also provides cultural competency trainings and our Speakers Bureau service, which do things like this, but on a larger scale. So we can come out to organizations and provide these trainings. We also do them over Zoom for folks that are outside of our immediate area. Here at the center itself, we have an over 4,000 volume lending library, completely consisting of LGBTQ+ fiction and nonfiction. And then we also publish a directory, which includes information and resources for businesses and service providers that are friendly to the LGBTQ+ community in Wisconsin and beyond. And last but not least, we have a community meeting space here. So in addition to our social and support groups, we also welcome other groups of people from the community to use our space and, find a welcoming and inclusive space here for whatever their needs may be. And I would absolutely be remiss if I did not highlight here Maggie the rainbow dog, who became our unofficial mascot when she was put in this rainbow tutu and just adored it. This is our senior advocate, Christie's dog, who is just a ray of sunshine. So today what I'm going to be talking to you about are pronouns, personal pronouns, how to use them, and how to be respectful of other people's pronouns as well. Pronouns are parts of speech that we use when we're talking about someone else in the third person so that we don't repeatedly have to say their name. So instead of saying, Chris went to the store and Chris bought a gallon of milk and Chris bought it home and then Chris ate a bowl of cereal, we would say, Chris went to the store and she bought a gallon of milk and then she brought it home and she ate a bowl of cereal. It's used in place of repeatedly saying someone's name to refer to them. In English, the most common pronouns are she, her, hers, he, him, his, and the gender neutral they, them, theirs. Whenever we're talking about things like language and how we use language, it's really important to remember that language evolves over time. For example, you, Y-O-U, used to refer to more than one person. It used to be a plural. And that's because thou was still a commonly used word in the English language. But as thou fell out of favor, you became a singular word. And now it's really rare to think of you as being referred to a group of people. And that's because the language we speak and how we speak it is based off of the time period in which we grow up, the place where we live, the people around us, and many other things. Our language reflects our individual life. The singular they is something that has recently become more prominent and more visible in the English language. And that is because it has become an increasingly popular gender neutral option. And a lot of people that I have talked to have a hard time with this. They don't really think of the fact that they use the gender neutral language without even realizing it in their day-to-day lives, and they is still considered a plural. But they has actually been used as a singular pronoun for hundreds of years. It was and is most commonly used when someone's gender is unknown. We all use it all the time without thinking about it. Gender neutral pronouns like they, them, and theirs are increasingly popular in use in English, especially among people who don't identify as a binary gender. So people who maybe do not consider themselves male or female, people who really just kind of reject the notion of a strict gender binary in general. Most major style guides now, so this would be things that journalists look at when we're writing, or academics, people in school look at to get recommendations on how to use language, actually now say that using they is preferred to using something like he or she when you're writing about someone and their gender as unknown, because it's the most inclusive language and therefore probably the most accurate way to say it in general. So they has been around for a long time and will be around for a long time. But they, them is not the only gender neutral set of pronouns in the English language. There are actually things called neopronouns. Neopronouns are new to the English language. These have been created by people to meet a need that they felt wasn't there. So people who didn't feel like he, her, he, or they, them, or he, him, these things didn't really describe who they are. They're gender neutral options in this sense, in addition to the traditional they, them in English. And so you can see a lot of them on this chart from Forge, but other examples also include fey, fair, or sie, here. And these are things that you would use just like normal pronouns in English. So instead of saying, she went to the park with her dog, we would say, sie went to the park with their dog. It's very, very simple to just plug these in and replace the traditional pronouns in English. And part of doing that is part of respecting that even though someone is, preferring gender neutral language, they may not feel that they, them, and theirs describe them the most accurately. And so they would say, use these neopronouns instead. Beyond the English language, many languages actually already have gender neutral singular pronouns. And there are other languages that don't have pronouns that distinguish between gender at all. So instead of having he or she, you would essentially just have they. You would just have a word that refers to everyone regardless of gender. In some other languages, especially highly gendered languages like Spanish and French and Portuguese, where all nouns are either masculine or feminine, gender neutral language is actually being created. And people are going back to the roots of things, going all the way back to Latin to look at how a gender neutral option would be constructed in these other languages. So in Spanish, we know that there is the O or A ending for all words to denote masculinity or femininity to every single noun. Common inclusive endings in Spanish will be writing things like a O/A or A with a circle around it. So this would be, instead of writing Latinos, you would write Latino, Latina. So you would have that O with the slash and then the A. Or you would write Latino, Latina with the A with the circle around it. Recently, X has become an alternative to the O/A, commonly seen in words like Latinx. But there is another alternative that has been created by some linguists in South America, and that would be using an E at the end. So instead of saying Latino, Latina, or saying Latinx, we would actually say Latine. Ella has also been incorporated into Spanish as a gender neutral alternative to the gendered pronouns él or ella. So instead of saying él or ella, we would have ella. Again, this is all the idea that languages evolve. And as people realize that there is something that they need to describe that they don't have the words for, they're creating these words. And this is the process of language that has gone on for as long as humans could speak. Really fascinating thing to be alive for and to witness happening in real time. But why are these pronouns important? We talk a lot about pronouns, and part of that is because getting someone's pronouns correct is just a question of basic respect. It's like using someone's correct name. So you wouldn't, repeatedly and intentionally get one of your coworkers' names wrong, hopefully, just like you wouldn't repeatedly and intentionally, hopefully, get someone's pronouns wrong. And assuming that you know someone's pronouns based on how they look reinforces the idea that people of different genders have to look a certain way, right? So assuming that all people that look a certain way use he pronouns and all people that look a certain way use she pronouns really just reinforces those limits that exist on the way people can express themselves and express their gender. And because of that, when you assume or guess at someone's pronouns, it can actually be really hurtful and offensive. So someone who might look what we would traditionally think of as more masculine may actually not use masculine pronouns. And using masculine pronouns like he, him for that person could be incredibly hurtful for them. So it's really a question of treating people with basic respect and dignity when we want to learn their pronouns, when we use those pronouns, and when we actively incorporate it in our understanding of who that person is. And even though you see them sometimes referred to as preferred pronouns, it's not just a preference. Our pronouns are an essential part of our identity, and when they should be treated as such. One way that people can really create space for other people to share their pronouns, and this is something that I think of, especially when I think about people who want to be allies to the transgender community, is to share your pronouns, because that makes it safe for other people to do so as well. So I'm very frequently the only transgender person in a room. And when everyone goes around and we introduce ourselves, if no one else includes their pronouns, it makes me feel really singled out and really different from everyone in a very negative way. If I'm the only person that says, hi, I'm AJ, my pronouns are he, they, it makes me feel like I'm doing something that's not socially normal, when in fact, it really should be something that we normalize and that everyone does. So you can include your pronouns when you introduce yourself to new people, like I just talked about in the context of a meeting, and you can add them into your email signature. You can also add them into your little name on your Zoom IDs for things like virtual meetings. Write them on your name tag. If you go to a conference or a family reunion and everyone has name tags on, write your pronouns on yours so that other people will see that it's something that they should do, and that people who maybe use pronouns that are non-traditional or whose pronouns don't match up with what people look at and think about and would assume feel safer in sharing their pronouns. So like I said, this is as easy as when you introduce yourself saying, hey, my name's AJ, my pronouns are he, they. And then the other person introduces themselves and hopefully would share their pronouns as well. But all of that kind of creates this expectation that we're going to be perfect about it, right? But we're not. We're going to mess up. So this is not a question of if we're going to mess up. It's a question of when. Everyone makes mistakes. I make mistakes sometimes with my friends and their pronouns, and I feel really bad about it. But the thing to do in that situation is apologize to the person, correct your mistake, and move on. The feelings that you might have as a result of misgendering or misidentifying someone are your feelings to feel. It's not the responsibility of the other person to make you feel okay in that moment. So apologizing, correcting yourself, and moving on is the best thing that you could possibly do. Because when you make a big performance out of your apology, that puts a lot of pressure on the person you've offended to forgive you and say something like, oh no, it's okay, that's okay, like don't worry about it. But actually that's not okay. You know, you've done something that could really hurt someone, but those feelings of embarrassment and shame that you might have are your own. And it's not the responsibility of a trans person or gender expansive person to forgive you or educate you. Those feelings are your responsibility, and it's your responsibility to remember them and educate yourself so that next time you do better. And on the topic of educating yourself, we've compiled a lot of great resources and references about how to use gender neutral pronouns, how to use pronouns in general, and some other questions that people might have around the topics of pronouns that'll all be linked in the comments of this video. So please educate yourselves and inform yourselves so that next time you can do better about this. And I would be remiss if I didn't highlight the fact that here in Madison, we have our Outreach Magic Pride Festival coming up. So when I talk about being an ally, one of the things that I always talk about is showing up and showing out for the LGBTQ plus community. And one way that you can do that is by volunteering at our Magic Pride Festival. We're coming and attending the Magic Pride Festival and showing the community that you are there. You know, for our allies, this is a huge opportunity. For queer people, this is an amazing opportunity to come together and celebrate in community. So visit our Magic Pride Festival website, outreachmagicfestival.org, for more information. And please consider signing up to volunteer, sponsor, or perform if you're interested. Thank you.